At Thanksgiving, my sister said, "Don't bring your pathetic family. They're low class." But I already brought them, and when she started to humiliate them, I told her, "By the way, I'll stop paying for your luxuries." Then she had a meltdown. Hey Reddit, longtime lurker here, but I finally have a story worth sharing. This happened over the course of about 2 years and just concluded last month. Still processing everything that went down, but I needed to get this out there because the justice was so perfect it feels like fiction. Quick background. I 34 male, self-made business owner, and this story involves my entitled sister who thought she was living the high life on my dime while treating my family like garbage. What she didn't know was that I was planning the most epic takedown in family history. Buckle up because this has everything: fake rich people getting exposed, social media destruction, and the most satisfying public humiliation you've ever heard of. I'm still getting messages from people who witnessed it firsthand. I need to start with how I accidentally created the most entitled human being on the planet: my sister Isabella. Growing up in Pennsylvania, we had a standard blue-collar life. Dad worked construction. Mom was a nurse. We weren't poor, but definitely weren't rich. Think generic cereal and hand-me-down clothes. I'm 4 years older than Isabella, and from day one, she was treated like the family princess. Pretty, charming, could manipulate anyone into giving her what she wanted. Even as kids, Isabella had this way of getting out of chores. She'd bat her eyelashes, and suddenly I'd be taking out trash for both of us. At the grocery store, she'd throw subtle tantrums until Mom bought her name-brand cereal while I got generic. The warning signs were all there, but everyone thought she was just spirited. After high school, I went straight into construction with my dad. Spent 3 years learning everything: plumbing, electrical, drywall, roofing. My hands were constantly cut up. My back ached every night, but I loved building something real. Every paycheck, I saved half, living on ramen and sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Took night classes in business and real estate. By 22, I started my own contracting company. This is where my life completely changed. I wasn't content just fixing problems. I wanted to create something bigger. Started flipping houses with construction profits. My first flip was a foreclosed disaster. Spent 3 months gutting everything. Turned 15,000 into 45,000. I remember screaming the numbers over the phone to my buddy Tommy, like I'd won the lottery. Within 3 years, I was running both a construction company and real estate investment firm. By 28, I was pulling in 750,000 annually. By 32, I owned properties worth over 4 million and employed 37 people. Local agents called me first with problem properties because they knew I'd make them work. But here's my biggest mistake. Instead of letting Isabella figure out her own path, I started funding her entire existence. When she graduated high school with no plans, no job prospects, no direction, I thought I was being a good big brother. What I actually did was create a spoiled monster who thought money grew on trees. It started small: community college classes she dropped after one semester, then rent for her first apartment. Before I knew it, I was giving her a monthly allowance of $4,200, paying for her $3,100 per month downtown Pittsburgh apartment, bought her a BMW 3 Series, designer clothes, expensive dinners. I turned her into a kept woman without realizing it. My construction buddy Tommy kept warning me. "Dude, you're creating a complete nightmare," he'd tell me while we mixed concrete. "That girl's going to think she's royalty, and everyone else is peasants." Isabella never worked a single day. When people asked about work, she'd say, "I'm exploring entrepreneurial opportunities." Translation: shopping at expensive stores, spa treatments, posting fake Instagram lifestyle photos. She'd post pictures at fancy restaurants with captions like "business lunch," when really she was eating alone on my dime. She developed this attitude that manual labor was beneath her, that people with regular jobs were basic. Worst part? She started looking down on our own parents. Our dad, who built houses with his bare hands. She'd comment on his rough appearance and how he smelled like work. Our mom, who saved lives at the hospital. Isabella would criticize her scrubs, saying she looked unprofessional. The breaking point should have been when she started telling people she was a real estate consultant, hinting she owned part of my business. I'd get calls from business partners asking if Isabella was now involved in deals. I kept funding her, thinking family loyalty mattered. Man, was I wrong about everything. 3 years ago, my entire perspective changed when I met Rachel at a Habitat for Humanity build. I was donating materials and labor, good for business reputation, and I genuinely enjoyed helping families instead of just making profit. She was volunteering as site coordinator. First time I saw her, she wore steel-toed work boots clearly borrowed and too big, jeans with actual dirt, and a hard hat that kept sliding over her eyes. She was explaining the day's plan while constantly pushing that oversized helmet back up. Every time it slipped, she'd laugh instead of getting frustrated. Tommy goes, "Boss, that girl's got more tools on her belt than half your crew, and she actually looks happy to be here." What struck me was how she treated everyone exactly the same. Whether talking to a retired executive or teenager doing community service, she gave them the same patient attention and genuine smile. I watched her spend 20 minutes teaching college kids how to use a level, more excited about their progress than they were. Rachel was a third-grade teacher who spent weekends helping build houses. Grew up in a farming town, daughter of a mechanic and librarian. When I asked her out, she suggested pizza instead of fancy restaurants. "I know this place with the best pepperoni pizza where you can play your own music on the jukebox." Our first date lasted 6 hours. She told me about staying after school to help a struggling reader, her face lighting up when describing him finally sounding out a whole sentence. I'd never met anyone who found such genuine joy in helping others. We've been together 2 years, married 8 months. She still teaches, still volunteers weekends, still drives her 2018 Honda Civic with 120,000 miles and a shopping cart dent. Never once hinted I should buy her something nicer. Never asked for money, expensive gifts, or designer anything. First Christmas, she knitted me a scarf with a card saying, "Made with love and terrible YouTube tutorials." Best present ever. I still wear it to job sites. Rachel gets excited finding deals at Target, clips coupons from Habit, tips servers extra when they're struggling. She's authentic in a way I'd forgotten existed after Isabella's fakeness. When Rachel laughs, something's actually funny. When she says she cares, her actions prove it daily. Tommy loves her, says she's the first girlfriend who doesn't look at me like I'm going to steal something. When they met, he was covered in drywall dust. Instead of keeping distance, she shook his hand saying, "David talks about you constantly. Thanks for teaching him everything." But introducing Rachel to Isabella was like mixing oil and fire. Isabella immediately sized her up like a predator, making cutting comments designed to make Rachel feel inferior. The contrast was stark. Rachel had worked for everything. Isabella had earned nothing but acted superior. The first time Isabella met Rachel was at my housewarming party when I bought my current place, a 4,800 square foot house in one of the nicest neighborhoods in the area. I was excited to show it off, had about 40 people over, including some of my crew, business partners, family, and friends. Isabella showed up wearing an $850 dress that I had paid for and immediately started working the room like she was the hostess. She was telling people she was my business partner and dropping hints that she helped me make investment decisions. Complete lies, but typical Isabella behavior. I watched her corner my accountant and start talking about our portfolio, like she had any idea what that even meant. Rachel came straight from a school event where she'd been chaperoning kids at a science fair, so she was wearing khakis and a simple blouse. Clean and appropriate, but definitely not designer. She had this little pin on her collar, shaped like a microscope that one of her students had given her, and she was more proud of that $5 pin than Isabella was of her designer dress. The moment Isabella laid eyes on her, I watched her face change into this expression of barely concealed disdain. It was like watching a shark smell blood in the water. "So you're a teacher," Isabella said with this artificially sweet voice that everyone who knew her recognized as dangerous. How admirable. I bet that's really fulfilling even though the pay is obviously limited. She said it loud enough for several people to hear, clearly trying to embarrass Rachel in front of my guests. Rachel, being the saint she is, just smiled and said, teaching was the most rewarding job she could imagine. I get to watch kids discover new things every day. Yesterday, one of my students finally understood fractions, and you should have seen his face light up. But Isabella was just getting started. "David, you should really take Rachel shopping sometime. I know some fantastic places for professional wardrobe pieces." Then she turned back to Rachel with this condescending smile. "No offense, sweetie, but presentation is so important when you're in a relationship with someone successful." Tommy, who was standing nearby with a soda, goes, "Holy cow, Isabella. Did you study being obnoxious, or does this just come naturally?" I nearly choked on my drink trying not to laugh. Several other people turned to look, and I could see them processing what had just happened. But Isabella kept going throughout the entire party. Made comments about Rachel's sensible shoes. "Do you always wear flats? Heels really complete an outfit, you know." Asked if she'd ever been to a really nice restaurant. "David should take you to that new place downtown. It's where all the successful people eat." And at one point actually said, "It must be interesting dating someone so far above your usual social circle." That last comment was said within earshot of my business partner's wife, who later pulled me aside and said, "David, what's wrong with your sister? That was incredibly rude." I was mortified, But Rachel just kept smiling and changing the subject to ask people about their jobs or families. The worst part was watching Isabella work the room after insulting Rachel. She'd float from group to group, talking about her consulting work and her investment strategies, all while wearing clothes I paid for and carrying a purse that cost more than most people's monthly car payment. People were impressed by her confidence and apparent success, having no idea it was all fake. That's when I realized my sister wasn't just spoiled. She was genuinely cruel to people she perceived as beneath her. And in her warped mind, everyone was beneath her because she'd never had to work for anything in her entire life. The situation got worse over the following months. Isabella started posting things on social media about social climbers who target successful men and people who don't understand quality. She never mentioned Rachel by name, but the timing and context made it obvious who she was talking about. Posts like, "It's so sad when people try to change themselves to fit into a lifestyle they weren't born for," and "Some people just don't understand what it means to have standards." When Rachel saw these posts, she didn't complain to me about them, but I could see they hurt her feelings. This woman who spent her days teaching kids and her weekends building houses for people in need was being attacked by someone who contributed absolutely nothing to society. The harassment escalated when Isabella started accidentally running into us at restaurants and making loud comments about the places we chose. "Oh, David, you're eating here. I thought you'd outgrown chain restaurants by now." Or she'd see Rachel's car in parking lots and text me things like, "Saw Rachel's little Honda today. When are you going to help her upgrade to something more appropriate?" Tommy eventually said something that really stuck with me. "Brother, your sister's treating your wife like garbage because she's jealous. Rachel has something Isabella will never have: self-respect and the knowledge that she earned everything she has. Your sister knows she's a fake, and seeing someone real makes her feel even worse about herself. Last Thanksgiving, I made the worst decision ever: hosting dinner at my house. Looking back, it led to the most important realization of my life. I invited my parents, Isabella, Rachel, Tommy, and his wife Karen, plus several longtime employees and their families. About 16 people total. Rachel spent the entire week planning this incredible meal, insisting on cooking everything herself despite my offer to hire caterers. "I want your family to feel welcome in our home," she told me while writing place cards. "And I want to cook for people I care about." She was so excited about hosting her first big family dinner. Isabella showed up 3 hours late wearing a white designer outfit, costing more than most people's monthly rent, carrying expensive flowers bought with my credit card, acting like she was doing everyone a tremendous favor. Everyone else had been there since noon, helping with preparations. First words out of her mouth: "Wow, it really smells like cooking in here." Not good cooking, just cooking. Like preparing food in a home kitchen was offensive to her refined sensibilities. Said loud enough for everyone to hear. I watched Rachel's smile falter. Rachel had created an amazing spread: perfectly roasted turkey with herb butter, homemade stuffing with sage and cranberries, garlic mashed potatoes from scratch, fresh green bean casserole. Dinner rolls started the night before. 3 different pies. The dining room looked magazine perfect with candles and good china. Isabella took one look and goes, "Oh, we're doing the homemade route? How quaint." I was expecting something more professional. She set down her expensive flowers like a consolation prize for eating amateur food. During dinner, she monopolized conversation talking about her Miami trip I'd funded. The hotel suite had the most amazing view. Her new designer handbag I'd purchased. It's from this exclusive boutique with a waiting list. And how she was considering interior design or fashion consulting. "I'm really drawn to work that doesn't involve getting my hands dirty," she said, looking pointedly at Tommy, who had paint under his fingernails. "I think I'm naturally suited for more elevated pursuits." Tommy's jaw was getting tighter. When Isabella said something about some people being naturally suited for service roles while others are meant for leadership, Tommy responded, "Yeah, and some people work for what they have while others just take handouts." Isabella completely missed the insult, smiling like he'd complimented her. "Exactly! It's about understanding your natural place in the world." The real explosion happened during dessert. Rachel had made incredible apple pie from her grandmother's recipe with lattice crust and cinnamon sugar. Dad was telling everyone how it reminded him of childhood, his mother's pies for church dinners. Sweet, genuine moment. Isabella took one bite, made this theatrical face, and announced, "It's a bit heavy. Rachel, have you considered taking proper cooking classes? I know this amazing culinary school that teaches professional techniques. They could help with texture and presentation." Silence. Everyone stopped eating, staring like she'd slapped Rachel. Rachel's face turned red. "No, I learned from my grandmother. She taught me cooking is about love, not perfection. Well, that explains the difference, Isabella said with horrible, condescending laughter. Home cooking versus professional training? You can always tell. Nothing wrong with amateur efforts, but when you're used to restaurant quality? She shrugged like she was being generous. Dad finally had enough. Isabella, what the heck is wrong with you? This is the best pie I've had in 20 years, and Rachel spent her week making this meal. Show some respect. Isabella looked shocked at being criticized. I was just trying to be helpful. Helpful? Tommy interrupted, setting down his fork hard. Lady, you showed up hours late, didn't contribute anything except flowers bought with your brother's money, and spent the evening insulting our hostess. We call that being a terrible guest. Instead of apologizing, Isabella doubled down. I don't have to listen to this from people who don't understand quality standards. Some of us have higher expectations. Then she looked directly at Rachel. I'm sorry if you're not used to constructive criticism, but someone needs to tell you this isn't the standard David is accustomed to. Rachel started crying, not from weakness, but because she'd put her heart into every detail and this spoiled brat was deliberately ruining it. Tommy laughed harshly. Higher expectations? Honey, you're 30 and your brother pays for everything. You have expectations like I have a private jet. Isabella grabbed her purse and stormed out, taking the flowers and knocking over her water glass. Door slammed, tires squealed. Then, something amazing happened. Mom hugged Rachel. Honey, that meal was perfect, and you're perfect for David. Tommy raised his glass. To Rachel, for the best Thanksgiving dinner ever. That's when I knew this was war. After that Thanksgiving disaster, I was completely finished with Isabella's behavior. But I wasn't sure how to handle the situation properly. She'd been my financial responsibility for so long that simply cutting her off felt too straightforward and wouldn't really teach her anything. That's when Tommy approached me with what turned out to be the most brilliant plan I've ever heard. We were at a job site the following week, doing demolition work on an old warehouse that we were converting into luxury lofts. I was taking out my frustration on some drywall with a sledgehammer, putting holes in walls that didn't really need to come down yet. You know what your biggest problem is? Tommy said, leaning against his crowbar and watching me destroy perfectly good drywall. You think you need to handle this situation gently, but your sister has been publicly disrespecting your wife for months. In my opinion, that means it's time for serious consequences. What do you think I should do? I asked, pausing my demolition work and wiping sweat from my forehead. Cut her off cold turkey? She'll just go crying to our parents. Something that will actually teach her a lesson. Don't just cut off her money. Expose what she really is to everyone who thinks she's successful and independent. Tommy's plan was absolutely perfect in its simplicity. Isabella had spent years building this fake persona as a successful, independent businesswoman. She told people she was a consultant, hinted that she had family money from investments, even claimed she owned part of my businesses. Her Instagram was full of photos at expensive restaurants, designer shopping trips, luxury vacations, all funded entirely by me, but presented like she'd earned every penny. Think about it, Tommy explained, while we took a break and sat on some concrete blocks. Your sister's got this whole image built up, right? Designer clothes, fancy apartment, expensive car, always eating at the nicest restaurants. But what happens when people find out it's all fake? That the successful businesswoman is actually just a kept woman living off her brother. He pulled out his phone and showed me Isabella's latest Instagram post. A picture of her at some upscale brunch place with the caption, Sunday brunch meeting with potential clients. Building an empire one conversation at a time. Boss life. Entrepreneur. Self-made. Look at this garbage, Tommy said. She's not meeting with clients. She's eating alone on your credit card and pretending it's a business meeting. And look at all these comments from people telling her how inspiring she is, how they wish they had her success. I scrolled through the comments. People were actually looking up to her, asking for business advice, wanting to know her secrets to success. It was nauseating. We're going to let her plan one final celebration, Tommy explained. Get her to organize some big expensive event, invite all her fake friends and the guys she's been dating, really go completely overboard. Let her get as deep into the fantasy as possible. Then, right in the middle of everything, we reveal the truth. Not just cut off her funding. Tell everyone exactly where all her money has been coming from. The more I thought about it, the more perfect this plan seemed. Isabella's entire identity was built on lies and illusion. Her social circle, her dating life, her sense of self-worth, everything depended on people believing she was financially successful. What would happen when they discovered the truth? Plus, Tommy added with a huge grin, it's going to be absolutely hilarious to watch. Your sister thinks she's so much better than everyone else, But what happens when everyone finds out she's actually the biggest fraud in the room? Tommy had always been the strategist among my crew. When we had difficult construction projects, he was the one who figured out the best approach. When we had problem customers, he knew exactly how to handle them. His plans always worked because he understood people, their motivations, their weaknesses, their pressure points. So we started planning. The idea was to let Isabella think everything was completely normal, maybe even encourage her to spend more money than usual. Let her plan some massive event where she could show off in front of all the people whose opinions she valued. Then, at the perfect moment, reveal that she was completely broke and had been living off charity her entire adult life. Tommy explained, "The key is timing. We let her get so invested in this fantasy that when it all comes crashing down, she loses everything at once. Not just the money, but the reputation, the social circle, the dating prospects, everything she actually cares about. We spent hours at that job site working out the details. How to encourage her spending without being suspicious. How to document everything for maximum impact. How to choose the perfect moment for maximum humiliation." Rachel was hesitant at first when I explained the plan that evening. "Isn't that kind of mean?" she asked while we were doing dishes together. "I know she's awful, but publicly humiliating her seems—" "Sweetie," I interrupted. "She's been publicly humiliating you for months. Remember what she said at Thanksgiving? In front of my whole family? She tried to make you feel like garbage in your own home." Tommy's wife Karen was visiting that weekend, and when she heard about the plan, she was completely on board. "Honey," she told Rachel, "that girl has been mean to you for months, and she's not going to stop unless she faces real consequences for her actions." Sometimes people don't learn until they get hit with reality. Rachel eventually agreed to support the plan, but only after Isabella posted another social media attack the next day about public school teachers who think they deserve wealthy husbands and people who don't know their place. That post was the final straw. Game on, Isabella. The plan went into action right after New Year's. I started encouraging Isabella's worst spending habits, acting like the enabling brother she'd grown accustomed to over the years. When she mentioned wanting to throw a massive party for her 30th birthday in March, I was incredibly supportive. "You should make it really spectacular," I told her during one of our phone conversations. "Invite everyone important. Spare no expense. You only turn 30 once, right? This could be the perfect opportunity to really establish yourself in the social scene." Isabella's eyes practically glowed with excitement. She immediately started planning this enormous celebration at one of the most expensive venues in the city, a rooftop restaurant with stunning views that required a $6,000 minimum just for space rental. "It's where all the successful people have their events," she told me breathlessly. "The waiting list is usually 6 months, but they had a cancellation." She created a guest list of about 90 people, all her Instagram followers, the various guys she'd been dating, her fake professional network, even some minor local celebrities she'd met at charity events I'd paid for her to attend. The theme was Great Gatsby, because apparently she saw herself as some kind of 1920s socialite living in luxury and excess. "I want people to see what real success looks like," she told me, while showing me inspiration photos on her phone. "This is going to be the party everyone talks about for years." She ordered a custom dress that cost $1,400 from some boutique downtown, hired a professional photographer who charged $300 an hour, booked a DJ who specialized in upscale events, arranged for premium food packages and specialty beverages. She even hired a videographer to film the whole thing for her social media channels because successful people document their achievements. The entire event was going to cost approximately $28,000, all charged to the credit cards that I controlled and monitored. Tommy was keeping detailed records of every single expense, and we'd meet at job sites to go over the latest receipts. "Boss, she just spent $950 on decorations. Gold and black everything because apparently she thinks she's throwing a movie premiere." He'd show me photos she'd posted of herself at the party planning store, posing with expensive centerpieces like she was some kind of event coordinator. Meanwhile, I was documenting absolutely everything for the final reveal. Screenshots of her social media posts about planning my dream celebration and so grateful for this amazing life, copies of all the receipts and invoices, even audio recordings of her bragging to people about her party and her successful lifestyle when she thought I wasn't listening. 3 weeks before the party, Isabella was in full princess mode. She'd visited the venue 5 times for coordination meetings, had multiple fittings for her custom dress, and was posting daily updates about the incredible party I'm throwing for myself. Her Instagram stories were constant updates about flowers, decorations, menu tastings, and outfit accessories. The venue coordinator called me twice to confirm payment details because the bill was so high. Sir, just to verify, the final total will be $28,467. The largest birthday party we've ever hosted. I confirmed everything while secretly recording the conversation. Tommy and I went to scout the venue the week before the party, pretending to be interested in booking it for a company event. It was exactly what you'd expect. Pretentious beyond belief, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the downtown skyline, white marble everywhere, and staff who acted like they were doing you a personal favor by acknowledging your existence. This is absolutely perfect, Tommy said, as we walked around the space. When this whole thing comes crashing down, it's going to be in front of every single person whose opinion matters to her, and in the most expensive, pretentious setting possible. The guest list was absolutely perfect for our purposes. All the people who believed Isabella was this successful, independent woman living her best life. Her current dating prospects, including some investment banker who drove a luxury car and thought he'd found a fellow wealthy person, her business contacts, who were mostly other trust fund kids who'd never worked real jobs, and her social media followers who thought she was living the perfect lifestyle. Isabella had been promoting the party for weeks, posting about her business success and how she was celebrating 30 years of achievement. People were actually asking her for career advice in the comments, wanting to know how she'd built such a successful lifestyle at such a young age. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when Isabella posted her pre-party announcement on Instagram. Cannot wait to celebrate 30 years of the incredible life I've built. So grateful for my success and independence. See you Saturday night for the party of the decade. Self-made, your boss life, living my dream. She actually used the hashtag self-made and built from scratch. The delusion was absolutely complete, and the trap was perfectly set. Tommy looked at the post and just started laughing. Boss, this is going to be even better than we planned. She's really bought into her own hype. The stage was set for the most epic takedown in family history. Saturday night arrived, and Isabella's birthday party was everything she'd dreamed it would be. The venue looked absolutely stunning. Everyone was dressed in their finest clothes, and Isabella was holding court in her designer dress like she was actual royalty. She'd even hired a videographer to film the entire event for her social media channels, talking about creating content that inspires other entrepreneurs. I arrived about 90 minutes into the party with Rachel and Tommy. We dressed nicely, but not too formally. I wanted to blend into the crowd until the perfect moment arrived. Isabella was completely in her element, telling everyone about her various business ventures and graciously accepting compliments on the amazing party she'd organized entirely herself. I really wanted to create an experience that reflects my personal brand. I heard her telling a group of people while gesturing grandly at the expensive decorations. Success isn't just about money, it's about creating moments that inspire others. The investment banker boyfriend was there, clearly believing he'd found himself a wealthy, successful woman. He was introducing Isabella to his friends as the entrepreneur I've been telling you about. Her Instagram friends were taking endless selfies with the city skyline behind them, posting stories about goals and inspiration. Everyone was having a fantastic time spending what they assumed was Isabella's hard-earned money. The DJ was playing expensive music, the photographer was capturing every moment, and Isabella had insisted on having servers walking around with champagne flutes and fancy appetizers that cost about $40 per person. She'd even arranged for a red carpet entrance because successful people deserve to feel special. I waited until they brought out the birthday cake. Isabella had ordered this massive 4-tier creation with gold leaf, and her initials spelled out in what looked like diamonds, but were probably just crystals. Still cost $600, though. The whole room gathered around as the servers carried it out, and Isabella posed for pictures like she was cutting the ribbon at a business opening. She was giving this speech about celebrating success and independence, and inspiring other young women to build their dreams, when I decided it was time. I want to thank everyone for helping me celebrate not just my birthday, but 30 years of hard work and determination, she was saying into the microphone the DJ had given her. I walked up to the DJ booth and asked him to cut the music completely. Excuse me, everyone, I said, taking the microphone from Isabella's surprised hands. I'd like to say a few words about tonight's birthday girl. Isabella absolutely beamed, clearly expecting some touching brotherly tribute that would add to her image as a beloved, successful person. The entire crowd gathered around with their phones out, ready to record what they thought would be a sweet family moment for social media. I want to toast my sister Isabella, I began, raising my glass of water, who has worked so incredibly hard to build the lifestyle you see here tonight. Polite applause from the crowd. In fact, she's worked so hard that she's literally never had an actual job. A few confused chuckles. Isabella's confident smile started to waver slightly, and she reached for the microphone, but I stepped back. Everything you see here tonight, this expensive venue, that designer dress, that jewelry, even the luxury car she drove here in, was paid for entirely by me. Her downtown apartment? I pay the monthly rent. Her credit cards? I pay every single bill. Her business ventures that she talks about? They don't exist. My sister is 30 years old, and I've been her personal bank account for the last 8 years. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Isabella's face drained of all color, and she started shaking her head frantically. But I was just getting started. She spent months insulting my wife, calling her a gold digger, making fun of people who actually work for their money, all while living off funds she never earned from jobs she never had. So I thought it was time everyone knew the real truth about Isabella's so-called self-made success story. I pulled out my phone and started reading directly from her recent social media posts. So grateful for my success and independence, posted last Tuesday, 6 hours after I paid her $3,100 monthly rent. Love being a boss, babe, posted last month immediately after I bought her that designer purse she's carrying tonight. Building an empire one day at a time, posted while eating lunch that I paid for at a restaurant she claimed was a business meeting. The crowd was starting to murmur, people pulling out their phones to check her social media, others whispering to each other. Isabella tried to grab the microphone away from me, but Tommy smoothly stepped between us. Nope, princess, let him finish the story. The truth is, I continued, looking directly at the shocked crowd, Isabella is completely broke, has been her entire adult life, never earned a single dollar from any job ever, never started a business, never had a client, never made an investment. Every single thing you see here tonight was purchased with money from my construction and real estate companies. I pulled out a folder full of documents that Tommy and I had prepared, printed screenshots of bank transfers, credit card statements, receipts for everything from her dress to the venue rental for tonight's party. These are just some of the receipts from the last 6 months. $28,000 for tonight's party alone, $42,000 in monthly allowances, $37,000 in rent payments, the car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, all of it funded by me. The investment banker was staring at the papers with his mouth open. Several people had their phones out, some recording, others frantically checking Isabella's social media accounts with new understanding. And as of this exact moment, I announced, the Bank of David is permanently closed for business. Isabella finally found her voice. David, please, she whispered, tears starting to flow down her cheeks. Please don't do this to me. Think about family loyalty. Family loyalty, I replied, my voice carrying across the silent room. Where was family loyalty when you humiliated my wife at Thanksgiving? When you posted about her on social media? When you spent months trying to make her feel worthless? The crowd was riveted now, sensing the real drama behind all the fake glamour. You did this to yourself, I continued. The moment you decided to humiliate my wife was the moment you messed with the wrong family. I handed the microphone back to the DJ, took Rachel's hand, and we walked toward the exit. Tommy followed us, but not before announcing to the room, by the way, folks, the bar's closing early tonight. Turns out nobody can pay for it. As we left the venue, I could hear chaos erupting behind us. People demanding explanations from Isabella, others calling friends to tell them what had just happened, the videographer asking if he should stop filming. Isabella was sobbing and begging people not to leave, but I could already see groups heading for the elevators. Her phone started exploding with notifications within minutes. The investment banker broke up with her via text message before we even reached the parking garage. Tommy showed me the screenshots Isabella had desperately sent to mutual friends. Her Instagram followers started disappearing by the hundreds as videos of my speech got posted and shared across social media. By the next morning, Isabella had lost her apartment lease when the landlord realized the rent payments would stop, her car payments were in default, and most of her social circle had completely disappeared. Turned out people only liked her when they thought she had money and success. She had to move back in with our parents, but they established strict rules: find a real job, pay rent, contribute to household expenses, no entitled attitude. We should have done this years ago, my mom told me later. We enabled you enabling her. She's currently working at a customer service call center, taking complaint calls for $16 per hour. Her Instagram account lost over 2,000 followers in the first week, and she's stopped posting entirely. Still sends me occasional text messages asking for financial help, but now everyone knows exactly who's been funding what.